Call this meeting to order. Apologize for my delay. Item number one.
Item number one is a Department of Water and Power report relative to efforts to facilitate film production and related matters.
While they're coming up, I just want to recognize we do have a full quorum. Mr. Parks and Mr. Krikorian are present, along with myself, and the representative from the Department of Water and Power.
Good afternoon, council members, Jobs Committee Development. I am Wayne Hinkson from the Department of Water. I'm Wayne Hinkson from the Department of Water and Power. I am the manager of new business and customer support. Today I'm going to be giving you an update on the status of the film industry nodes. The Department of Water and Power has been working with FIMLA Council Member Alacon and the Mayor's Office to install 5 power nodes for the film industry's use. DWP has been working vigorously to provide power nodes at 3 different popular filming sites. The power nodes would allow direct connection to the grid, which would eliminate the need for mobile generators. These power nodes will be installed at the following locations: 2 nodes at the Department of Water and Power, John Ferraro's building, 2 nodes at City Hall, and 1 node at Griffith Park. At the John Ferraro building, each power node is rated at 400 amps, 120, 240 volts, 3-phase, 4-wire. Both nodes are installed in front of...
Wait, did you say Griffith Park?
Yes, I did.
Was that new?
Griffith Park was new. Griffith Park was the alternate site. Negotiations with the private owner at the parking lot did not work out.
Oh,
so
okay.
we selected the alternate site.
Okay, that's at 650 South Spring, so that didn't work
Yes,
out?
that did not work out
Okay. Yet?
yet.
Okay.
Okay. At the JFB, both power nodes are installed in front of the JFB building on Hope Street. Both nodes are placed on the east side of the bridge. The nodes are served from a fuel cell, which is also located at the JFB. This project is now operational.
Has anybody used it?
No one has used it yet. It has been
What are
tested.
you waiting for?
We're waiting on some filming activity, I guess.
Okay.
Okay. At Griffith
Maybe
Park,
after this hearing, everybody hear about it.
pardon me?
Everybody will hear about it after this meeting, so tomorrow you'll get a phone call.
That would be great. At Griffith Park, the power node at Griffith Park will be rated at 400 amps, 120, 240 volts, single-phase, 3-wire. The power node will be installed next to the pedestrian park in the southeast corner of the Great Lawns picnic area. This power node will be served from an overhead single-phase transformer bank on a pole. The source is overhead, but the service will be an underground service. The pole was set yesterday, and the conduits from the pole to the switchboard along with the switchboard and equipment will be installed this week. This project is scheduled to be completed on March 19th. At City Hall, this project here is a much more involved project, and each power node is rated at 600 amps, 280, 120 volts, 3-phase, 4-wire. 1 power node would be placed in front of City Hall on Spring Street, and the second node would be placed on First Street. The designs for this location has been completed by our design engineers, and the permits has also been approved by Building and Safety. 2 transformers have been received, and the switchboard equipment, the cam locks, receptacles, the meters, and the rest of the equipment is expected to arrive sometime around March 25th. This project is scheduled to begin on March 29th. DWP's management continues to be committed to this pilot project, making these projects a priority by moving them forward, ensuring that they are completed in a timely manner. DWP's management has been working collectively with engineers and engineering associates from various groups in the department to make sure that the deadlines are met. DWP will complete these projects by the end of April 2010. This would facilitate the city's efforts to support the film industry in preserving film production in the city of Los Angeles.
Well, but also to say it in another way, Mr. Krikorian would probably appreciate this. We're putting them back on the grid. I mean, they're currently using generators, which aren't the most environmentally friendly
Yes.
form of power use. They're not paying DWP for that service, and by creating these nodes, it not only simplifies the filming process and reduces the expense, it also is good business for DWP, and it puts them back on the grid where
They belong.
where they belong. Those are your words. I didn't say that, but the point is that it's a win-win-win all around, and I have nothing more to add to this other than to say thank you to DWP for moving so quickly on this and the other measures that we proposed, and as new opportunities arise, that's why I put it in the context of good for business. How much did you pay for each one of these, by the way?
Each one of these nodes, again, these are pilot projects. They cost about $70,000 for each one.
So it's going to take a while before we recoup
Definitely.
our benefit from it, but it does a lot of good in the meantime. So as other opportunities arise, please know we'll be very mindful of that, and hopefully we'll see some success with this in terms of increased film shootings at these 3 locations. By the way, thank you also for switching to the zoo without telling us. I mean, we wanted 3 nodes, 1 fell out. You got us another one. You didn't come to ask permission, and I think that's a good thing. Okay, so thank you. Questions? Answers? Then we'll simply receive that report, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 2.
Item number 2 is a Los Angeles Police Commission report relative to LAPD's efforts to facilitate filming.
Is DWP still here? Did they run out? Okay. John Wickham had a great idea, and we'll just work with them on the outside on that. Okay, thank you. So maybe we can write a letter to that effect. Just to keep my colleagues informed. John Wickham suggested we might want to have a DWP explore the feasibility of incorporating the nodes into new buildings as a regular process. So maybe we can craft a letter, send it over to them to have them consider that. Okay, item number 2. Who's reporting?
Well, good afternoon. My name is Deputy Chief Richard Rapoli. I'm the Commanding Officer of Special Operations Bureau. With me today is Captain Tom McDonald. He's the new Commanding Officer of Emergency Operations Division. And to his right is Lieutenant Ray Garvin, who's the officer in charge of the Contract Services Division, which has the film permit unit, or the film unit under his charge. I know before you have the report regarding facilitation of filming in the city of Los Angeles by the Los Angeles Police Department, and we're here to answer any questions you may have regarding that report.
Well, we understand that the 3 officers were moved from the unit. Is that correct?
We had a total of 14 officers and supervisors that were removed from Emergency Operations Division. And I believe that there was, 2 officers and a supervisor was removed from Contract Services Division. Part of those were in the film unit, yes.
Okay, and how many officers do you have in the film unit now?
Currently? Ray, I'll let you
2.
answer that.
We have 2 remaining. We had 1 sergeant and 2 officers.
So it's like a 60% cutback?
It'd be like a 33% in that unit. One out of 3.
Pardon me?
1 out of 3. We had 3. We're down to 2. We had the 2 officers. One of the.
I thought he said 3 were removed.
That's from contract services. The field side, which I think is what you're talking about on the film side, is the 1 sergeant position. But the two police officer positions are remaining, and they're going to be out there doing the on-location type of activities.
Okay, and
The other two came from like permit review and the inside, the administrative types of activities. They weren't out in the field doing the response to locations and things of that nature.
now we have, we were just having a discussion about how we need to enhance the service provided for this particular unit, and to get any kind of cutback at all it could have a detrimental effect on the ability to manage these projects. I mean, you guys do a good job of going out there and sort of keeping the peace with the community. Is that correct?
Yes, I think we do an excellent job.
Thank you for saying that.
The entire unit. The entire unit plays a role, whether they're reviewing film permits or responding to phone calls. But the field side especially, they go out and through the enforcement of the permit conditions are able to facilitate filming, handle a lot of the neighborhood issues, and interference by certain persons with filming activity. So I think, you know, where we were at about a year and a half, 2 years ago, with a lot of the, you know, we weren't getting along, I think, to where we are today with our relationship with the industry stakeholders, the retired officers, the location managers, et cetera. It's like night and day.
Well, I'm glad to hear that as an aside, but I don't want to second guess the department in terms of where it's putting its resources. We're gonna have to make some tough decisions as the months roll on. But what are the considerations that might put us in a position to replenish these services, to get that supervisor back or whatever?
Well, I'll speak.
Here, let me just put it in this context. We know that Mr. Krikorian's legislation has stimulated a lot of filming activity. We know that all the actions the city council has taken is just people want to come back to L.A. and of course with Mr. Audley's wonderful personality, they're just attracted to Los Angeles now. It wasn't like that a year ago. And this is a critical function in the equation. So, in that context, you know, how do we measure it against all the other things that we have going on?
Well, the cutbacks were tough, and the field needed additional officers. And in my command, Special Operations Bureau, I lost nearly 70 officers, 14 from Emergency Operations Division. But with that said, I have a lot of confidence in Lieutenant Garvin and Captain McDonald to keep the mayor's directive of keeping film alive and well in Los Angeles. We've worked with fewer and doing more for many years, and we're going to continue doing that. Those two officers that he has out in the field will be supported by two supervisors that he has remaining. They will go out in the field. They will learn the job. One of them has experience with respect to film permits and locations, etc., and we'll make it happen. I've given my business cards to a number of people I met here today, as did the captain. They have a direct contact to me, the captain, as well as Lieutenant Garvin, and we'll make this work.
Okay, well, we brought this into committee because we did want to let you know that we believe this unit is very important to the film industry and therefore to creating jobs in our community and the well-being of Los Angeles as a whole. It's all circular, you know. I mean, the more filming that's done, the more revenue that's going to be generated for the city, the more services we can provide to the community, and it's as simple as that. But we would want to be mindful that it could have a detrimental effect, and so we'll be watching that very carefully and hopefully work with you to make whatever adjustments are necessary. But again, I don't want to second guess your staff allocation at this particular time, because you're under a lot of stress from a lot of different angles, and so are we. I do have one public comment card. This is Eric Nichols. You want to comment on this? Yeah.
In support of Lieutenant Garvin, I'd like to commend them. They have really made a great deal of shift and effort on the streets in helping us as an industry as a whole. I think that everybody in the business would say that they're really stepping it up in comparison to where we were in speaking to you in the last year. And I just wanted to give them some acknowledgments and kudos for that because it shows in the street. I think the community is seeing that. I'm certainly seeing it from where I'm sitting. They've been supportive on both helping with community issues that weren't being resolved and a production company that may be out of line as well. So they've got a good balance, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, that's nice. That's nice to hear.
And I'd also like to thank you greatly for taking these efforts because it's showing up.
Well, did you want to talk for another 10 minutes? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And if we could just keep an eye on it and see how it goes, and hopefully, like you said, they can expand with less. Mr. Park?
Let me just ask, I wasn't familiar, a while back we had the contract compliance unit come before council. How did you create it? Was that a budgetary issue? You just bootlegged it? How did that come about?
On the contract services?
Yeah, because that's part, if I understand the report, contract services is a larger umbrella, and within it is the film
Yes.
unit. How
Yeah.
did you create that?
It was moved from chief of staff to from chief of staff
Chief of Staff.
to Emergency Operations Division in December of last year.
So is the current emergency is the old TAC planning kind of operation?
In a way, I think it's a combination of a lot of different things that have been lumped under contract services.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Just briefly, over the last few years, the combination of runaway production and the strikes and its general slowdown in production has I'm confident, caused fewer permits to have to be processed. And now we're seeing I hope you're seeing an upswing because of the incentive and because there's generally more production going on now. We have a pilot season and so on. So how is that impacting the workload at the very time that you're reducing services? Are you seeing a greater demand than you had before because of an increase in the number of permits?
Our ability to review each permit and approve it or set conditions or work with family on it hasn't been impacted by the changes, and I don't anticipate that it would. And that's greatly due to FilmLA's ops system, which is a web-based system for approvals. It really enhances the turnaround time on permits. So, and as far as the other things, no, we're going to keep marching on, and my expectation is that we will deliver the same service.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 3.
Item number 3.
Committee action for this item?
Report. We'll just hold it in the file and report back, I don't know, 3 months?
Okay, continue for 3 months then?
Yeah.
Very good.
Item number 3 is a CAO report relative to the results of an RFP for film permitting coordination services.
Everybody's happy?
Good afternoon, sir. I'm David Harana, the CAO. Yes, sir. As far as I can tell, everyone is happy. If they're not, it would be news to me.
Okay, well, we don't have any cards on this item.
I'm sorry?
We don't have any cards on this item.
Okay.
But tell us what you've changed in the contract.
The contract includes changes that incorporate the management of vacant city facilities and the promotion of the city as a location for filming. So from...
Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about the promotion side, since we were talking about the marketing piece and...
Right,
all
the
that.
promotion marketing piece, that's essentially the same thing. We've structured the contract to allow for that activity to occur in conjunction with Film LA. We don't have a lot of details defined in the contract. We are hoping that with your guidance and participation, the mayor's guidance and participation with Film LA, that we would be able to come up with a detailed program.
So when are they going to roll out the marketing piece?
I think I'd need to ask Paul Audley to come up and answer that question.
Why don't you?
Come on.
I don't want to steal your thunder. I just want to get a sense of when when you're going to be...
We anticipate that we'll be able to fully roll out the concepts behind a marketing campaign sometime in the middle of next month, and that will be actually active by the beginning of May.
Okay, great. I'll be looking forward to working with you on that. Great. Thank you. I don't think there's any protest. Thank you for shifting gears a few months ago to include the promotional piece.
Sure.
And let's see how it goes the next 5 years.
Okay.
Thank you, David. So we want to approve the CAO's report. Is there any objection to approving the CAO's report? That matter is then approved unanimously. Item number 4.
Item number 4 is the Department of Recreation and Parks report relative to its policies in connection with filming.
Good afternoon, Vicki Israel with Recreation and Parks, and Mark Carbon is to my left, who's in charge of our film office, which is operated out of Griffith Park. Just to give you an overview, the Department of Recreation and Parks and our LA Film Office has been working very closely with the CLA, CAO, and Film LA to really clarify some of the misperceptions of our park's accessibility and of not being film-friendly to the community, as well as to all of the film location managers and scouts. We have been working and successfully working with all of these groups in making some recommendations. We have simplified our film guidelines and procedures. I believe you actually have a copy of it in front of you. We put this together so that not only could we simplify our procedures, but also to share that with our film monitors and with the film industry. We also put it on our website, Recreation and Parks website, click onto the film office so that anybody outside of the community can also look to see what our guidelines are and our procedures. We've also continued to make some improvements, some minor improvements, some just to clarify some improvements, and that is we are taking a much friendlier approach, not just within our film office, but also with our staff. And that seems to be some of the misconceptions out there that we needed to send that message. We have met with staff that typically does have the authority to say yes or no. We have also come up with what we call a no denial policy, but we're coming up with recommendations and alternatives. So perhaps that we can work together with the location managers and the location scouts to come up with alternative sites or just perhaps using a different part of a park, etc. So, and that seems to have been working. We also have access and opened access to some of our closed facilities. One, as you know, is the Children's Museum. We have been allowing some filming going on there. And
Wait. How many? Because
I think
I told the reporter that some filming was going on there. It turned out to be one movie, and it was 2 days, and nothing else. Is there more going on?
At the Children's Museum, there was one movie so far, but there's numerous requests to go and scout the location for other filming.
Oh, okay.
Primarily feature filming, which is tremendous. The actual amount of filming and prep and wrap time was approximately 3 weeks at the location.
Okay.
For the feature.
Yeah, it seems to me that would be a great location for TV film production, because it's just a barren building, and they could adjust it internally without the community even knowing for that. So I don't know. Obviously, it depends on how quickly we move forward with the notion of the Children's Museum, but that's not going to happen in the next 6 months to a year for sure. So I'd be very interested in knowing more about that.
But in the interim, it is available, so,
Okay.
and we have made that available on our website also.
Yeah.
So the message is out. And another closed facility today is Waddell's Mansion and Garden that also is
Where?
available. Waddell's Mansion and Garden?
Waddles?
Yes.
That's what I missed.
Pardon me? It's
Is it in Hollywood?
Hollywood Boulevard in Curson.
Right,
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
right. Well, the department has newly required it back, so it is under our administration now.
Okay. I should go check it out. Okay, can I ask a question? You have 136 film monitors here. What are these film monitors?
100 of those monitors are full-time employees, 36 of them are part-time employees.
And all they do is work on film?
The part-time employees, that's all they do, is they work on film. And they help with, sometimes with scouting, going out, working with location managers. Yes, they are assigned, that is their responsibilities. When they are hired, that is what they are hired to do.
What about the full-time?
The full-timers are available, they go through a training program to become a film monitor. Some of our facilities are considered what we call special facilities, and we prefer our own full-time, for example, maintenance supervisors.
Oh, so they're full-time staff, but they're not full-time assigned to movies and
That's
stuff?
correct.
Oh, okay. So it's just somebody who specializes in understanding what to look for?
Specific facility.
Okay.
We use the full-time staff. Obviously, they not on their city time. It's when they are off-duty
What is when they're off duty?
that they are allowed to become a film monitor.
The monitoring of the film sites, we have, as we indicated, 36 part-time employees that are hired specifically to monitor the film, be assigned to film locations to ensure that the integrity of the location is met, the guidelines that have been...
Oh, so they're not paid by the department, they're paid by the industry?
No, they're actually paid by the department. They're paid through the Park Film Office, special funded through the...
But it's part of the permit
Correct.
fee?
Correct.
Okay, I see.
That's the $38 per hour that is charged for film monitoring.
That's just sure they don't degrade the Waddles Mansion or the Griffith Park or whatever?
Correct.
Okay.
Basically making sure that the guidelines are being followed and to be a liaison between the film company and our park patrons, for instance.
Okay. Okay, interesting. I didn't realize there was that many employees.
And the full-timers are specific classes, the gardeners, senior gardeners, park maintenance supervisors, people that know the parks, know the nuances of their particular, park. They usually work within their own region in the parks that they would normally.
So
work.
the maintenance person at Griffith Park Observatory, for example, would be specially trained to be a monitor?
They would have the background to be able to not only work the observatory, but any other park within the 4 regions.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay. Well, great. I do appreciate this, and particularly if it's on the web, so that the film companies can have access to it. I know that the general manager has made this a priority during some really tough times, and so please let us know about any changes to this program if the cuts that we anticipate will affect it. But and I hope that we have mollified the perception of the working relationship between the certain locations. I believe the observatory was a particularly difficult one, and also the Hollywood sign, which you maintain but not
Yes.
manage, I guess is how to say it. So, but I appreciate the effort and the focus, and I think the industry will as well. Mr. Parks, did you have a question?
No, not
Mr. Krikorian? Well, thank you very much for your report, and thank you for continuing to educate the employees about how important it is. Right now, our employees should be particularly sensitive to all those things that generate revenue in the city of Los Angeles, and it begins with a smile on the face. And so, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we are simply adopting the Recreation and Parks report. Hearing no objection, that matter will be approved. Item number 5.
Item number 5 is the Department of Transportation and Department of General Services report relative to a program to provide city-owned parking lots at no cost to film and television production companies.
Good afternoon, Rene Douglas, Department of Transportation, Parking Facilities Division. We are asked to report back regarding a recommendation pertaining to the film industry free parking. And the Department of Transportation manages and owns 117 because one of the facilities is under construction, or one of the lot is under construction, which is the Vine Street Garage. Of the 118 parking facilities, 24 are operated facilities. Operated facilities are garages or structures or parking lots which we have contracted an outside body, either GSD, Parking Concept Incorporated, and NSP, to manage and operate the daily operation of our garage. 33 are automated facilities, which means there are metered lots, pay station, multi-space station. 21 are surface lots with single-head parking meters, and there are 8 single-metered surface lots offering free short-term parking and metered long-term parking. Also, the remaining 31 surface lots are all free of charge, or these are free lots. The Department of Transportation recommends the continuance of extending the free use of all non-operated parking lots, metered and non-metered, to the film industry, and such uses will be coordinated with Film LA or such other entity that may be contracted by the city to coordinate and manage film activities in the city of Los Angeles. Current restrictions, which we have attached in our report, imposed should continue until such time changes are made either by council district or the department. Most of the restriction imposed on this film use are from the council district. It's either no truck or trailers, half of the lot can only be used, no evening filming because the lot is in the residential area, and we could work out with council district to make some adjustment if the committee would like to us as to make some adjustment and make it a more flexible accommodation of filming in these lots. The second recommendation of the department recommends the film production company be charged for the use of any of the 24 operated lots. This facility, which are currently operated by the Department of General Services or a private parking operator during operating hours. The charge will be based on a revenue replacement methodology. Replacement revenue will be calculated on average cost per space of revenue per day. After operating hours, the department recommends that film production company reimburses the operated parking facilities labor and non-labor operating costs. This would include utilities, personnel that needs to staff the facility should it needs to be open. And lastly, the department recommends that monthly parking permit holders would not be displaced for their parking space while the parking facility, operated and non-operated, is being utilized by the film production company. To this, we submit our recommendations.
Very good. Do we have a report from General Services Department? You presented your report last.
That's correct. Melody McCormick from GSD Parking Services. We had submitted our report at the last meeting on January 12th, but we're here to available to answer questions.
But we asked DOT to conform more or less to
Correct.
your operation. And
Right, it would be
now-
helpful if it was consistent, yes.
Thank you. You anticipated my question. So they pretty much run the same way. We want for the film industry to have two different. I mean, they see a city parking lot, they see another city parking
Yeah.
lot. They don't know the difference.
Right.
So if to the extent that they're on the same program, I think it makes it a lot easier
Yes, they
to
are.
work with. So I want to thank both of you for that. I don't have any other questions. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I'm just going to ask one question on general services. How do we accommodate if we lease these out or rent them? How do we accommodate the people who normally would park there? Do we have an alternative site?
That's correct. We do have alternative parking available here in the City Hall East Commercial Garage, or we do have other facilities within the Civic Center area. For example, if they were, our most popular lot is Lot 2 down here on First Street. If in fact we lease that out to a film company, then we redirect our daily parkers to either City Hall East Commercial or down to the Mangrove site on Alameda.
You made a distinction about monthly pass.
Yes, we do not want to displace our monthly parking customers.
Okay. And then also your recommendation is that we not waive or dismiss the idea of reimbursement on the lots as far as the revenue.
In order for this proposal to be revenue neutral, we have recommended the revenue replacement option during operating hours. Of course, the facilities would be at no charge after operating hours unless there was the cost of an attendant, just the cost to cover the labor cost of that attendant.
Thank you.
All right, any, Mr. Kawarian? Okay, then we would, if there's no objection, approve the DOT and GSD report recommendations and send them on to council for approval.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Item number 6.
Item number 6 is a CAO report relative to waiving the collection of fees for use of city property for filming.
Good afternoon, David Hirano, the Office of CAO. Before you, you have a recommendation from our office to approve an extension of the existing film use fee waiver. The existing waiver was adopted by the council on September 11, 2006. It's essentially been in place for almost 4 years and expires on June 30th, 2010. The waiver waives the collection of fees for the use of city property and equipment by film production companies and has a few exceptions, primarily for financial reasons. The fiscal impact of the waiver is pretty much highly dependent upon the demographics of filming in a given time period and whether film companies are requiring the use of city facilities or not. So it varies significantly from year to year and can be hard to project accurately. Based on activity over the last 3 years, the city has waived approximately $97,000 a year in use fees under this waiver. And given the economic importance of this industry and where we are in our current crisis, we believe that we should continue this waiver and continue to try and encourage jobs to be filmed locally in the city. So before you, we've got a recommendation to approve a continuation of the waiver and instruct the CA attorney to return with an ordinance that does that.
Do you have any kind of assessment of what that, what the equivalent increase in revenue is? You said this is $97,000 a year approximately, and
is what we've waived.
But how many jobs created with the film shoots? How many days of activity? What kind of money we're talking about?
You know, we do have the activity numbers. We can go back and look at the activity numbers and see if we can construct that. We had not looked to do that, but we can try and do that for you.
Did you do some kind of analysis that drew you to the conclusion that it was beneficial to the city to do this?
Yeah, we've seen, in some instances, we've seen more use of city facilities. For example,
no, I'm just talking about this particular one. This impacts the convention center, El Pueblo, Department of...
No, I'm sorry. The convention center, El Pueblo Recreation and Parks, the zoo, and the Warner Grand Theater have been exempted in the past. We would recommend continuing those exemptions.
Oh, okay.
The reason for their exemptions in the past were financial.
Oh, except. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I misread that. Okay. So you're confident that the $97,000 per year is absorbed by revenue generated or jobs created or other economic activity that's beneficial to the city?
It would take very few jobs created to make up that number, and yes,
okay.
This is one that we would definitely recommend continuing.
Becca just wanted me to remember that New York increased its fees, making Los Angeles even more competitive.
Correct.
For all those people listening in media, I just wanted to make that point. We're going in the opposite direction, and hopefully that's a going to be positive for the city.
Yeah, this is not the time to lose that competitive edge.
Exactly. Okay, well, any questions, Mr. Parks?
I was just going to ask, what do we ask the departments to do that are waiving the fees?
The ordinance currently requires the departments to track the volume of fee waivers so that we can report back to you and act.
But is there tasks that they have to accomplish as part of the fee waiver? Is this just a fee that because of the usage, or are there actually, is the fee based on full cost recovery of city employees doing something?
The fee is purely a use fee, so it's the service fees are the ones that are based on full cost recovery of city employees.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. What are city employees doing? Because what I'm concerned about, if we're going through some massive cuts and we're asking city employees to absorb work and not get paid for it, or is this just merely that they're using the lot and they're paying a fee for the use, or are city employees asked to do some mechanical task to cause this to occur?
No, to the extent that city employees are involved in providing a service, this does not address that. So we still have the ability to charge for that service. This addresses only the pure revenue from rental of city equipment or facilities. So it's not tied to a particular cost.
And it's not blocking other people who may want to rent it who are not getting waived? So if somebody else wanted to rent the same equipment and whatever, they're not locked out?
If it was, no, but the waiver of the fee applies only to film production companies. Yes, so someone else could pay the fee and also use the facility if they're not a film production company.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure I fully understood the distinction you drew when you said that the exemptions were exempted for financial reasons. I mean, if we're talking about a revenue waiver, that's purely a financial decision regardless of the nature of the facility. So why is it that parks, for example, are exempted out as opposed to other city facilities?
At the time that the waiver was crafted, it was the size of the financial burden that would be potentially received by waiving that. For example, with the Department of Recreation and Parks, when we went and looked at the potential impact, I guess it was 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago, they were earning well over $400,000 a year in revenue. If we were to waive that and ask the department not to charge that, that revenue would have to be recovered some other way. Either we would have to provide it out of the general fund, or we would have to cut services in recreation and parks, or raise fees somewhere else, revenue somewhere else, maybe not fees. And the decision at the time was that it would just be simpler and easier to just exclude them from the waiver. Now, you as a body could choose to do something different, but those were the types of decisions that were made.
So it seems as though the fee waivers that we're trying now are kind of first steps to demonstrate that their return on investment for waiving those fees in terms of more jobs, greater tax revenues, and so on, can be demonstrated. And I hope that you will demonstrate that in response to Chairman Alarcon's request by demonstrating days of filming, so that we can extrapolate out from that number of jobs on a shoot per day and extrapolate out from that revenues that the city derives and the multiplier and so on. But the second level of that analysis then is that if we can demonstrate that for the facilities for which fees have been waived, then perhaps also we can begin to examine how much additional shooting would there be, let me not use that phrase, how much additional production would there be in our parks, for example, if there were a fee waiver? How much additional production would there be at El Pueblo and the Convention Center and so on if we had a fee waiver or fee adjustment? You know, I would be interested to know if there's a way that we can determine the sort of elasticity of that. You know, if you have a reduction in the fee, is that going to produce more filming, or do you need to eliminate it entirely? I think in order to assess whether or not this is a good investment, I believe it is. In order to demonstrate that it's a good investment, I think we're going to need some of that data.
Yeah, and as you get to some of the bigger items, I think you're exactly right, and we can definitely work with you to develop that. When this ordinance was originally developed, some of the targeted fees were, for example, the $100 a day that was being charged to use the City Hall. Those are the kinds of, I think it was $100 a day to use DOT's parking lots. Those kinds of things were the types of fees that were being targeted.
Right. But by comparison, what's the fee for Griffith Observatory?
Well, and that's not included in here. I don't recall the exact amount. Is Recreation and Parks still here?
Depends on the kind of.
Depends. Okay. But I'm being told it's approximately $3,000 a day.
$3,000 a day, but ranging up potentially to 20.
It's up to 20.
Or higher.
Yeah.
If you want to use a telescope.
Yeah.
If you want to use a telescope. Oh, yeah, that's right.
You know, one thing I think we also have to look at is, I think there's a difference in the dollars if they are basically creating jobs and spending in the community, but if we're losing revenue within that department and have to replace it, it's another equation. And so if they are relying on that revenue to meet their general fund needs, I think there's a different issue as relates to waivers. And again, that money that goes to employees and buying food for restaurants and hiring people do not find its way into those city departments' treasury. I think that's the two things we have to be concerned with, because if they come up short on their revenue goals, then the general fund has to absorb it.
Yes, I agree with you. In fact, when the ordinance was originally being crafted, that was part of the thinking that led to some of the exemptions. For example, if you look at the list, Department of Recreation and Parks, the Zoo, and El Pueblo all get significant input from the general fund on an annual basis. And so the question becomes, are we willing to provide more, or are we willing to cut back the services of those departments, or what are we willing to do to try and balance the situation in those departments? And that was the reason for excluding them from the waiver. Some of the others were relatively small, and it was felt that they could be easily absorbed, the impacts.
No, like I said, I think these fees you're talking about, $100 here, $100 there, and if the city resources are not performing tasks, they're just a usage fee,
yes,
then I think you're in better shape. But when you start for Pueblo, who's relying on revenue, or Rec and Park, or the Zoo, who their existence is based on not only what the city gives them generally, but what they can raise to pay their bills, I think that's different.
I'll tell you what,
we agree.
this is going to council if we approve it.
If you approve it.
Can you do some kind of analysis between now and when it goes to the council?
With Film LA's help, we will definitely try.
So we want to know how many films were shot, how many jobs were created as a result. I think if the fees were close to $300,000 over the course of the 3 years, then you have to assume there were hundreds and hundreds of jobs that were created, and that money circulates in our economy and gets taxed every time they buy something with it. So I don't really think it takes a lot done. Now, conversely, if we may have lost these shoots, and then we wouldn't have any of the revenue. So,
okay, we can do that.
But I have to tell you, Mr. Hondo, I remember when we used to debate this in Sacramento, the crux of the issue was on the extent to which we could analyze the benefit over the cost. And we're being a very aggressive committee here, but at the end of the day, somebody's got to raise a question, like some budget chair somewhere is going to want to know, well, show me where the benefit is, and that's appropriate.
Yes.
Not leaner times, in times where we're not so strapped for revenue, we're still going to want to know, are we gaining or losing here? And so I think it would be simple enough to justify, but I don't want to take that for granted. If we could put it into some kind of framework, I think the council would be a lot more supportive, I think they're going to support it anyway, but I think they would be much more informed and make a decision that they feel more comfortable with.
We'll be able to take for you the types of productions that filmed and associate with that the standard number of jobs and dollar expenditures and be able to take that as a formula out for you.
Okay, great, that's helpful.
John Wick, CLA, just wanted to clarify, so when this goes to council, this information data will be available for council to consider with the full...
Yes. Okay. So if there's no objection to that, we can move forward with this item. Unanimous approval with the request that the CAO work with Film LA to get more information about the benefit that we're deriving from this fee waiver. Thank you.
Will do.
Item number 7.
Item number 7 is a CLA report relative to the establishment of a Los Angeles Film Commission.
We don't have to spend a lot of time on this. I do have one public comment card. The bottom line is that we are holding this matter in abeyance because the mayor's office is crafting a model of their own relative to film advocacy for the city of Los Angeles, and they've informed me that they are within a month or so of finalizing their recommendations. I still want to continue to work with them on that proposal, and then at the right time we'll take it up in concert with this. But I just wanted to report that we're not. This is something that actually has received very positive feedback, but we do want to, out of respect for the mayor, see what model they're crafting and work in conjunction with their efforts. Did you have anything else to report on this?
John Wickham with CLA. Not really. At your previous meeting, you all expressed a concern about delineating responsibility areas, and with the mayor's office proceeding and not having a final plan yet, it makes sense to hold this until that plan comes forward so we can make sure that all of the roles are clearly delineated and we don't have overlap and confusion in this.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We have a Catherine Clinch. It is that's what it looks like, Clinch. So you're going to be the clincher here.
Hopefully.
Great.
I am here as a citizen, as a filmmaker, as someone who's worked here in the industry for 30 years, although I will still self-identify as a New Yorker, please forgive me. I have been actively involved in raising money for an independent production company called Nuclear Family Films, looking to make films like The Blind Side, Marley and Me, not children's programming. First thing I did was go out and try and raise money. I've raised $6.5 million out of $10 million. That's not easy to do. 3.5 of that is tied to me shooting in Michigan. As hard as it is, I am saying thank you so very much, but I want to shoot here because this is something that I feel absolutely passionate about. And I've been listening to discussion. I have been meeting with the people from every state in the country, and I have been sent gifts, I've been sent books, I've been sent flyers and brochures and beautiful discs, and I can tell you that everything that I have heard come out of here misses the point. And I'm not trying to be insulting, I'm trying to be very candid. The way to find out how to keep film production here is to follow the money and find out why it's leaving. And as much as there is nothing that is more valuable than a good location manager, the bottom line is the person deciding where it's going to be done is the executive producer and the creative producer and the budget money. And the reason that everyone is going here is because it's turning out that the money they're getting from other states is the only money that's being returned to investors. And so if you look at the way that the budgets come down, if you look at the fact that most of the films getting made out of the state are never seeing the inside of a theater, and you reach out to the investors, I think you're going to have a better chance of bringing film production back here. I think that you need to have an enormous PR campaign to explain to the people of LA that in the same way that if Caterpillar Tractor leaves Peoria, the city falls apart, if the film industry leaves LA, we fall apart. When you go to these other states and the commissions, you get absolute concierge service. They say yes to everything. And I was in the DGA training program in New York when the Mayor's Commission in 1978 made us do our time there, and they said yes, and everything was free. And they would shut down the Lincoln Tunnel on 24 hours' notice. And so I would urge you that when you put together the commission, that you think of it more as a task force, that you put people in that will deal with the financiers, because those are the people who are going to be responsible.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Although I do want to remind you that New York raised the fees. If I didn't mention,
I heard that.
if I didn't mention that earlier, just wanted to make sure that it was heard this time around. So I'm not sure you could film at that tunnel and without the same level of fees that you had. I think it's going to be increased, but we do. And not to be facetious, this you're preaching to the choir. I mean, we recognize that, but at the same time. There are a multitude of issues that can impact. We also have, there's things that we can do and things we can't do. Rather than focus on the things we can't do, we're focusing on the things we can do. And so, but we do recognize what you're saying, and I do recognize that financing is the key.
If I may, you have enterprise zones that deal with certain areas of the city. If you expand those to the 30-mile zone, you're going to enable people who can hire more employees because they have a rate adjustment on that.
Yeah.
And you have Community Redevelopment Association, which has bunches of empty buildings in neighborhoods that are falling apart. If you offer $1-a-year leases to companies that promise and contract to do all their production and post-production in the city, you're going to have a win-win scenario. And it's going to be helpful all across the board. And I think if you look at city services and think outside the box, you have a lot of things that you could be doing that never come up in topic.
Thank you. Mr. Parks?
I just, where's John? I just have one request, and I think as I studied this, and particularly with the financial situation we're in and creating another commission, and then what I have a concern about is they would be uniquely situated, and we're asking them to go out and raise funds to promo the city. What I would ask is if we could at least discuss with Film LA as a thought that if being that they are the one-stop center and somewhere in their contract it has marketing in small letters, that if they had that task and had a nonprofit associated that raised the money and they took on that whole task, would it be something that maybe saves the city a lot of administrative overhead and gets the same job done? And that's just a discussion. It just seems as though creating a commission is a laborious task, and then you have to have staffing for it, and you go on and on and on. And again, it would be totally inconsistent with all other commissions where we'd actually say, go forward and raise as much money as you can to highlight the city, which we tell other commissioners, be leery of going out and raising money. And so I just asked if we can kind of look at an alternative, and I don't want to give Film LA another job, but it does say marketing in small letters in their potential 20-year contract. But the issue is that is there an ability to look at it from their perspective and what they can generate, and a nonprofit with them to be their vehicle to raise money without the city's impairment, without the city's rules, and all the things that would cause them to be more effective than all the structure we have internally?
We actually received a phone call from the California Film Commission, and that commission was created with this similar intent of go out, find money, and do good work for filming in California, and they had difficulty doing any fundraising themselves, and so they had some insight and thoughts. They want to have conversations with us on that subject matter. So we'll be following up very closely on those details, because that is a problem and an issue that needs to be addressed. So
I do want to point out that the reason for the delay in the Film LA contract was because we directed Mr. Hirano to incorporate new language that addressed the marketing
I was
issue.
involved in that contract 4 years ago.
No.
When it was going haywire.
No, but what I'm saying is that we specifically held up the contract this year to insert a marketing language into this contract. So recognizing that. On the other hand, we're very intent on listening to the mayor's proposal because for many of the reasons that you mentioned. But I believe that the city having a group that is sponsored by the city, that supports the effort, I think sends a very powerful message that doesn't necessarily equate in terms of expenditures, but it has a magnetic effect of letting people know that LA is still the place to do filming. Mostly because of our infrastructure and workforce. So those words aren't being lost in this motion. That's why we're continuing this matter. We want to continue to have those discussions with the mayor's office and see what emerges. And I'm very not hopeful. I'm more than hopeful. I absolutely believe we're going to create something in the next month or two that will meet the purpose that you've just described. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, no other matters on the agenda. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.